Pakistan have arrived. So, morning. Just want to introduce yourselves. Background on what you're doing here. Why are you here?
Yes, my name is Waqas Ahmed. I'm from Pakistan Education Research Network. And in Pakistan, we are working on the IAM project with the TERI for the last 3 years. Yes.
I'm also from Pakistan. My name is Waqas Ibratu, and I'm also working in iFIRExMAN. Thank you.
Okay, we all good? Got the camera now. Do I need to stand somewhere? Have we got anyone online? Who's that online there? We got Basuki, Alex, what? And they've gone away.
Yeah, I'm here.
Johnny, are you?
I'm here.
Who else we got?
Terry, I'm here. Yeah, Terry.
Very good. So during the meeting, if you have any questions, put your hand up. I'll stop and we can answer those questions or work through those questions. Don't wait for me to finish the presentation before you ask questions. Just any time, jump in. So there are many aspects to running your national federation. Technical, policy, engagement with your customers. These sessions will identify and discuss the basic tasks an NREN must undertake to begin the operation of their identity federation. So what do identity federations do? So at a minimum, a federation maintains a list of IDPs and service providers that are in the federation. That's the very minimum you need to do and create the metadata that is published for those identity providers and service providers to be able to talk to each other effectively. Stepping up, most federations also define agreements, rules and policies. And if you want to join EduGain, you need to have those agreements, those rules, those policies in place to be able to join the community, the global community of federations called EduGain. They provide some user support. So it can be through documentation, through email lists, through websites, knowledge bases, support desks, support email lists, and so forth. And they can operate a central discovery service and test infrastructure. So does everyone know what a discovery service is? Yeah. Anyone not know what a discovery service is? Basically, it's just a list of identity providers. So when you go to a service, you're asked to log in at that service. You'll be taken to a thing called a discovery service or a where are you from service, which lists out all of the identity providers in your federation. The user can then select their own organization, click on that, taken off to log in at their IDP, and then back to the service, away they go. Some federations run test infrastructure. So in the AAF, we have a complete copy of our federation for test. And we have all of our IDPs in that test federation, and we recommend that all service providers also have an instance in that test federation. And that helps to ensure that when they go to production, that everything's set up correctly and been well and truly tested and will effectively work. Stepping up again, they can provide self-service tools for managing IDPs and service providers, so a federation registry. So that's what we've done with iFIRExMAN. We've used the Jagger Federation Registry in our Kubernetes setup. We've provided application integration support. So different ways to integrate your applications. In the AAF, we provide SAML. We use OIDC. We've got an OIDC option for services. And we've also got a JSON Web Tokens option. So we've got multiple ways that services can connect to the Federation to make it easier for services to connect in. And that might be something, Debs, that you might be interested in opening up some of the other protocols to your Federation or to your services, so it makes it easier for them to connect into the Federation. How to help or host or help with outsourced IDPs, so cloud hosted IDPs. That makes it easier for organizations to join. They don't have to have technical skills in-house to run their IDP. Basically outsource that to the Federation or to somebody else that's willing to run their IDPs on their behalf. And we've done that in our Federation, and over half of our identity providers are now using our hosted IDP solution. And they don't have to have the technical knowledge in-house to run the IDPs. They just really need to concentrate on providing their services. And I think Farhan and his team have also gone down that path of having multiple or providing a hosted solution for their IDPs. It makes it easier for those IDP or the organizations to join the Federation because they don't need that technical ability. And provide tools for managing guest users. So some federations provide an IDP of last resort. So for commercial users, for government users where they don't have an IDP in your Federation, because you're really targeting at the moment research and universities. So for those users that are outside that domain, a IDP of last resort is something that your Federation can provide and allow those users to access the services in the Federation and participate in the research that's happening in your country. And develop custom tools for your community. So that's something we're going down the path of. We're providing or starting to provide more customized tools to look at authorization, assurance, and the more advanced features of the Federation. Right. So what are the basic functions to provide? Well, I think before you even start thinking about the functions you need to provide, a good starting point is to define a vision and mission for your Federation. That will help you then decide what functions that it needs to provide. If you have a mission or a vision for your Federation, you've got some direction to go. Developing and maintaining Federation policies and processes is fairly essential to running your Federation. Operation of Federation tools, the stuff that Farhan's been teaching us. Curation of metadata, supporting Federation members, making sure that their stuff's working and solving problems that arise when their users, their researchers access the Federation. Communicating with your members, keeping your members up to date on what's happening in your Federation. It's a very important piece of the work that you need to be doing in an ongoing fashion is to continue that communication. Make sure your members know that you're there, because when you run the Federation, it's fairly hidden from your end users, your researchers. If you're doing it properly, they shouldn't know that there's actually a Federation sitting underneath, connecting them to their research activities or services. You need to ensure that you're providing a sustainable service. You don't want to set up something and in 3 years' time, you've got lots of researchers using it, lots of people depending on it, and you haven't got a sustainable model to keep it going into the future. You also want to become the centre of knowledge and expertise in all things identity, or particularly federated identity. Being that sort of lead in your nation allows you to then use that to grow and to offer more and more services, more and more capabilities to your members. You want to be in a position of leadership, leading Federation across your nation. And you also want to be doing some innovation. So thinking outside the box, what's the next step? What's the next thing that we want to be doing? How can we further add to our Federation and improve the outcomes for our nation's research and staff and education and students, staff and teaching and so forth. So, yep.
Can we get a show of hands? Who's entering and likely to run the Federation to this campus and likely to benefit? Because you can think the different, So who's NREN or Federation sort of affiliated, right? Come on, hands up, guys. Don't be. Well, NREN and Federation, because and or No, just or. It always has to be or, right? So actually, not so much on the federation sort of front. So everyone else is campus, right? You campus, you run an institution, medical school and stuff like that. Okay, so your reasons for federation are going to be different than NREN's reason for federation. And actually, hopefully, you have a problem with managing identities with all of the applications, right? As soon as you get a certain number of applications and different services that you build together, your help desk has to deal with a lot of hassle with managing passwords. And so the actual primary use case, I mean, when federation evolved, it initially started as a campus problem, right? The second, third, fourth, 23rd, 47th application. And you see this, you go into your browser and you choose saved passwords. And if you just search for even just your campus domain, you'll end up with all of these different applications. And then what I used to like to do when I would do presentations to campuses, I would just go to Google, type in the domain name, like site:/utaz.edu.au, log in, get all of the login pages, take screenshots of all of the login pages and ask people to pick which are the legit ones and which are the dodgy ones. Now, I'd only show legit ones, right? I'd never show a dodgy page, but they're all so very different. People, you're telling, you'll get a message from your bank, only go to this website to log into your bank, right? Your IT services will send, don't share your password, only go to legit web pages. And then your staff and students have 10 or 20 different websites on campus that are all legitimate, that you're all supposed to give your password to. And then you tell people, oh, but if the student union run up a page, don't trust them, right? Or if someone runs something on, on a hosting provider elsewhere, don't trust them. And then it's, how do we know not to trust them? And so federation is all about concentrating identity into one location that you do trust. You spend all of your effort securing that, right? And you spend all of your effort making sure that that synchronizes with other services so that students and staff don't have to trust other pages because they don't exist. Right? And so, I mean, I remember a story Terry telling me when he was at uni at QUT. They migrated a large number of their core services all over to federated identity in one day. And they bulked up the help desk because they expected lots and lots of calls. They expected people, hey, I tried to log in and this page looks different. They didn't get a single call, which is good for federation, but bad because your users are susceptible to phishing. Right? And so the reason you do federation is to try and remove that attack surface. So they do go to the one location. And if you do want to improve the security, like if we're going to talk about two-factor and other services like that, that's the point. You put all of the effort into that location. You don't have to try and secure a wide range of services. So while we're covering, federation activity, there's still a lot of benefit for the campus in this. And actually the campus, you're the primary, you bring all of the users. So you're useful in this regard. And so this is an effort to try and, protect your users so that you can offer more applications without having to retrain them on how to log into it. And you don't have to hand out more accounts for every new application that you roll out.
So Liana's going to come around and scan your card, your QR code. And has everyone filled in the other form that we've got, the paper-based form? I haven't yet, but I think there's some more in the back that have sort of appeared. Okay, so back to the thing. Thanks, Brooke, for that. So defining a vision and mission for your federation. Your vision is just a statement or a description about your future state, where you want to be in the future with your federation. An effective vision inspires your team and shows them how success will look and feel in the future. So that's your vision. Your mission is just a statement or a definition by your company or federation who it serves, what it does, its objectives and approaches to reach those objectives. So there's those two things. They're fairly simple, but they are difficult to actually do. So in the AAF, we have a very simple vision, mission. Our vision is to lead access management for Australian education, research, government and industry. That's our vision, because we want to be the leader in that space. How we get there? Our mission is to deliver secure access, which was what Brooke was talking about, and identity services that connect Australian teachers, students and researchers with global online research resources. So that's our mission, to connect people and to do it in a secure and safe way. Those are very simple statements. Those statements have changed over time. Our original vision and mission is completely different to that, but it's changed as we've grown and matured over time. So every so often our leadership team, of which I'm a part, goes back and has a look at the vision and mission and tweaks it and fiddles with it, just to change, because we change direction from time to time. And we need to change our vision and mission of where we're going and how we're going to get there. Developing and maintaining your federation policies and processes. So there are a number of policies that as a federation you need to define. The first of those, probably the most important, is your federation rules. And these define how members join, what the requirements are to join, and a whole lot of other stuff about being part of the group or the federation itself. And there are templates available for federation rules from Refeds. And you also need a metadata registration policy. And this is how this defines what the metadata looks like, what's allowed in your federation to be published out, and some checks and balances that you need to go through to ensure that that metadata is correct, current, and meets its requirements. Those first two are the minimum requirements to join EduGain. So if you want to join EduGain, you need to at least get your federation rules happening and your metadata registration practice statement happening. And there's templates for those, so they're fairly simple to take those templates. But you really need to understand what you're signing up for, or what you're getting your customers to sign up for. So I recommend that you, when you do your federation rules, you take it out to your potential customer base and ask them, are they willing to sign up and agree to participate in your federation based on those rules that they need to participate by. Some federations will have a technology profile, and this defines how services, how identity providers can connect to your federation. The AF hasn't got a technology profile yet, but I'm working on it. And I'm actually using PAL's, Sweden's, as a sort of starting point, because they've done a lot of good work in developing their technology profiles, and assurance profiles similarly, about how to verify that a person is who they actually say they are, or that their credentials are of appropriate, have been issued and are of appropriate levels. So there are some policies. There's probably a whole raft of other policies that you could define for your federation, but those are sort of the minimal set, at least the federation rules and the metadata registration practice statement. There are a bunch of processes that you'll need to work through and define. The first one is how an organisation joins your federation. What's the process that they need to go through? Generally, it'll be something along the lines of you have a conversation with a new customer or a new organisation that wants to join, discuss with them what it is that they're actually joining up for, show them the rules, let them work through and understand the rules, and then have them sign off on some piece of paper with somebody who has authority within that organisation to say, we want to join your federation. And once they've gone through that process, there might be some sort of invoicing or billing if you charge for members to join your federation, or if you're providing it as part of your NREN, it's just one of your NREN services, that won't be an issue. For the AAF, we charge both service providers and identity providers to participate in our federation. Compliance, and this is something that most federations don't do. I think we're one of the few that do it, but have a yearly compliance process where we ask each organisation to reaffirm that they're living by or working by the Federation rules and meeting those rules and understand those rules. So we get them to sign off every year that they are compliant with our Federation rules. We also have an update contact information process, because keeping contact information for your organisations is very difficult. Most organisations don't care. They'll give you some contact information when they join. People change jobs, people move on, change positions at the university, but they generally don't tell you that they've changed those roles, and that contact information goes out of date really quickly. Invoicing and payment collection. If you're making your members pay to participate, you'll need some processes there. And any other processes that are required to run your federation. And there'll probably be many of them. We're still defining ours. There's still more and more stuff that we were identifying, that having a process wrapped around that would make it easier to make it more consistent, make the whole job of running the federation easier, because we're doing it in a consistent and repeatable way. So I've just stolen this from your site, pal, because it looked cute. This is what the SWAMAD people have for their federation policy framework. They've got their federation policy at the top with the federation rules. Underneath that, they've got rules for identity providers and service providers. And they've actually got membership agreements, which is, again, some of that policy stuff that they have to sign up for a membership. For identity providers, they've actually got terms of use, of access and use for service providers. And under that, we've got the assurance, the technology, profiles, and then they've got the ND categories, which we'll talk about in more detail tomorrow. So if you want to see the SWAMAD policies, they're all at that website. They're a good read. They're not too onerous to read. I've also put the UK Federation document set. They're a bit more onerous to read. They're a bit more difficult to read, but they're just a different way of basically stating the same sort of stuff. So having that information or those policies in place is essential for kicking your federation off. Federation policies, they're not set and forget. You need to regularly review your federation policies and regularly update them, because things change over time. And subscribers must be informed of all of these changes. So if you're making a change to your rules and somebody signed up to those rules, you need to make sure that they're aware that those rules are changing behind the scenes, or make it clear and transparent. So over the life of the AF, there have been at least 2 changes to our rules, and another change is planned for this year. So in our rules aren't based on a template. Our rules came before the template, and we haven't moved to the template. We're happy with the rules that we have. We've got this concept of core attributes. So these are the set of attributes that a identity provider must be able to provide if requested. And we're actually going to change those core attributes. We're going to add some additional new attributes that have come along in the last few years, and add those to the rules as core attributes. So every identity provider needs to be able to provide these new attributes to services that request them. We're also aligning the rules with the ReFed's baseline expectations. And I think Pal will be talking about that tomorrow, possibly. Yeah. And it's a very simple document, just basically what are the minimal sort of requirements for an identity provider, a service provider, and a federation. And we're enhancing our security requirements. So in our rules, we've got some very basic stuff about security. This year and last year, priority 1 for the AF was security and improving and enhancing our security. I'm not a big fan of security. I like to have the doors open. Our security people like to have the doors closed, and it's somewhere in between that we need to sit. Sometimes they close the doors a bit too hard on us. It makes it a bit more difficult to get in. Then I whinge and complain. Moving on, operating our federation tools. And the aim for tools is they're always up, always available. Sometimes that's not possible, but if you have that aim or that direction, you want your tools to be 100% 100% or 99.999% available, then that's where you should be aiming for. And that's what the iFIRExMAN is trying to get us to do with their Kubernetes infrastructure, making it easier to have services always or nearly always available. If something crashes, then the infrastructure automatically brings it back up. Open source, this makes it cheaper to run this stuff because you're not paying licensing fees for running this stuff. And the sort of tools that we're talking about are very bespoke, federation-specific tools. You can't really buy a federation manager from down the shop at Microsoft or Apple or whatever software vendor you want. It's a very bespoke piece of software. And there are a few options out there, but the one we've chosen is Jagger. It's been used by many federations. It has most of the functionality that we need, and it serves its purpose. It's getting a bit old, and I did talk to someone at Edugain, or sorry, in Giant recently about if there's going to be a version 2 of it coming out. I'm not sure if there was a yes or a no to that, but a bit of a maybe. And SaaS tools, software as a service tools, if you can afford them. So AF's a fairly rich sort of federation, so we tend to use a lot of software as a service. We use AWS for our infrastructure because we can afford it. But if you can't afford it, then open source is the way for you. So your minimal tool set. You got your federation manager, which we're using Jagger for. And I think most of the people who are running federations in the room will have experienced Jagger in some way or shape. You got your metadata signing and distribution, and we're using PIF for that. It just takes metadata from your federation registry, signs it, and publishes it in both the blob and as an MDQ source for metadata. Your discovery service, and there's a raft of options here. Raj?
We are using Edugain republishing metadata.
Yep.
Whether if is good or that would is.
The Edugain, which one, sorry?
Republishing metadata. XML set tool.
All right, that's the Shibboleth tool. That's fine too. You can use that. It just does exactly the same thing. It just resigns the metadata for you using your own local keys.
It's running perfectly. So if there anything advantage, we will be.
Okay, so the XML sec tools, basically it just digitally sign the XML, the metadata, and digitally sign with your federation key, and that's it. Okay, but PIF, you can do much more because you can do some filtering. So for example, you want to okay, for example, maybe not all of the SP or IDP in your federation feed you would like to export to the Edugain, for example. But when it's coming back, when you download with the whole set of the Edugain metadata, you want to remove the one that you exported before because you want to add others that wasn't included in the Edugain. Into, for example, in our federation, for the IDP is automatically included into the Edugain metadata stream feed, but for SP they have to request whether they want to be included or not. But some of, I mean, our federation members still need to access that SP as well. That's why we can use PIF to remove the one that we exported and add the one, merge with the one that only for our federation to become one big, more complete metadata feed. But for example, like in AF, for example, the SP has to pay for membership. So in Edugain, of course, if the member get from the Edugain, then they have to remove it, the one that we're not paying, unless for research and
Change that now. So
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So means you can use that to filter out some that you don't want to be consumed by your federation member.
Almost. SP metadata.
Yeah, it's never getting smaller. That's why we use MDQ instead for the IDP and SP.
can actually deal with and create a MDQ setup?
Yeah, actually, yeah, can.
Another advantage.
And PIF, it has more, much more features actually, like you can run the MDQ service as well with PIF, a lot more than XML tool.
If our session covered that one. We did last time, but we.
You forgot.
No, we didn't do it.
Oh, the mechanical inside.
Okay,
Keep that for APAN56.
we're talking about that later as well. How we actually,
It's concern now, because it's keep growing federation.
Yep.
related.
Yeah.
So
So-
that will give very service application nowadays.
Exactly, there's a penalty in terms of time.
Yeah.
And that's why we moving from consuming all the metadata to the on demand. But there's a drawback. Your meta indicator server is down and then.
everything's dead.
Yeah.
Discovery services, there's a couple out there. It's the Switch Discovery Service, the Shibboleth Discovery Service, there's a few other options. I think Simple SAML PHP has its own discovery service. We're waiting for seamless access to provide a federation-based discovery access model. And I think Leif talked about that last time with us. So it's coming, but it's not here yet. A website's pretty useful to have, and this is around communications with your customers. So having information about how to join, your federation rules, how to get your metadata, your vision and goals for your federation on that site, your direction, all that sort of stuff. And there's plenty of free options for there. WordPress and many others, or if you've got some money, you can actually buy some pre-built website stuff. And support for ticketing tools. There are some open source ticketing tools, but they require effort to run them. We use a thing called Freshdesk. The Zendesk, there's probably others out there. And this is about how customers, when they have a problem, can communicate to you. You've got a track of all their issues, and you can keep that history. It's useful to have some sort of tool for that. If you can't do that, just an email address, support at your federation, to get those tickets in, to get those issues into you so you can help the owners of those tickets get them resolved.
One more side.
Yep.
The seamless access. Regarding seamless access. So is it, have you implemented in it, or it's open source?
Want to speak to that panel?
Yeah, seamless access is an open source. I want to step in
We are
there.
using DS now.
Yeah. There is a service called Seamless Access. That is a free service for us to use. Summit is using that as our primary discovery service today. We don't filter on federation level at all. But there is also, I don't remember the name exactly, but you can download it directly from GitHub. This IO, I think it's called. Yeah.
Because there is a publisher that have implemented seamless access.
Yeah. They are using Seamless Access. Yeah. So I think it's called this IO. That is the code base for Seamless Access. And so totally open. And we use it within the interfederation we have directly within our community. And it's just fairly simple to run. It's built on PIF, of course, because it's built on the same person that built PIF. That's Leif. That's my boss, by the way. Yeah, that's my boss. Yeah. Yeah. But those type of tools is good to use. They are extremely competent, so they can be a bit of a bore to handle sometime. So you need to put in some time to get it working, and then it works really well.
So we're also looking at moving to seamless access at some point in the future, but it's going to be well down the track before we get that far. But as I say, it does give you that common look and feel across all the applications. Just log into your institution is the tag for it.
We also have a plan to seamless access Right, still trying to figure out how to filter in.
I think that's the piece that's missing for most federations, is to filter out stuff that you don't want to appear.
Yeah, but okay, this is a use case, for example, it's a university, they have. Well, there's a use case in Malaysia, let's say there's a one university, right? So they only want to allow the LMS or Moodle to be accessed by institution that has memorandum of understanding between this, or some sort of like agreement. So seamless access is good, but we are still figuring out how to do filtering. Only showed the university or IDP that has agreement with that university to access. We like the look and feel, but we still trying to figure out how, because at the moment, if we use it as it is, it show all the EduGain IDP.
If you were going to be needed for that service.
Yeah, well, for discovery service, look and feel is very important.
Yes. And finally, SAML IDPs and SPs. Shibboleth, WordPress is not one of those. That's a mistake. They should say simple SAML PHP. I'll have to fix that in the slides. And there are other options. So some additional tools you might want to consider for your toolkit, some sort of email service. So you've got an email within your organization, some sort of chat mechanism with your organization. We use Slack for a lot of chat stuff. Video conferencing, Zoom, or whatever your favorite video conferencing tool is. A lot of our universities love Teams. I hate Teams. That's a religious war that I'll never win. I prefer Zoom. Some sort of monitoring tool to verify that stuff's up. We'll talk about that a bit later. Testing and verification. So testing that an IDP is generating the actual attributes that should be sent to it, and they're doing it properly. And that's something, again, you could use Depsy to see that surname and given name are coming through and help you work out why they're not coming through. Because if you've got an account, you've got some sort of tool you can go to consistently. You can then easily sort of crawl through the logs and find out the problem. Security tools, scanners, VPNs, all the good security stuff that most people want to run. Some sort of message delivery tool. We use MailChimp to pump out our newsletters and other communications out to our customers. And a video repository. So we actually do a lot of, we're starting to do more and more videos of various things. And we actually just dropped them onto YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel where all that stuff lives. And whatever else makes sense for you guys. But you're going to be limited to what you can, what your team can handle. So don't try and do everything. Don't try and boil the ocean in one go. Be prepared to drop tools if they're of little value. So you might pick up something today. In 3 years' time, nobody's using it, so get rid of it. It's just avoid duplication. We're finding this at the moment. We've got so many different document repositories. We're trying to reduce that down because nobody can find a document in our federation at the moment. Try to reduce complexity, and every additional tool will have a cost involved with it. So just bear those things in mind when you're starting to sort of build a toolkit of stuff that help you run your federation. Knowing your tools are running correctly. Don't wait till your customer tells you something's broken. It's embarrassing, really embarrassing. And we had that situation about a month ago. One of our developers pushed out a change, which then took out Rapid Connect service, which is a proxy that has over 180 services sitting behind it, and it stopped working. So there was 180 services that our customers could no longer access. And all of our REDCap services, which is a medical tool for surveying people, was unavailable. And we had doctors, we had nurses, we had all sorts of people on our help desk saying, how can I log in? Why is it broken? And we only sort of, we got it fixed fairly quickly. But we had one customer who had a contract with their university, and they had to have 99.99% uptime. And we were causing that to not be the case. So they had to write to us, we had to write to them to say, here was the issue, here's the resolution. It was all our fault, not the company's fault, so they weren't penalised from their contract at the university. So that was embarrassing for us, and we put changes in place to ensure that doesn't happen again. Or if it does, we're informed before our customers are that something's broken. So simple monitoring tools and alerting tools can help. Things like Nagios, sitting there monitoring and polling things just to make sure that they're all up and running. If you do have an extended outage, let your customers know, put something on your website saying this service is broken and we're working on it. Let your management team know as soon as possible. If you're one of the workers, management don't like to have things that go down because they've got to explain it to their board. If it's an extended outage, so they need to know and be on board as quickly as possible. Try to avoid similar outages in future. So if you get an outage, work to understand what caused that outage and try to put in place things that will avoid that, and keep records of your outages. So you know what's happened in the past, you can go back. It's also useful reporting at the end of the year. How many outages did you have? How many customers did it affect? Was it better than previous years? I just sort of thrown this one in there just to do a, who actually does risk assessment stuff in their organisation? There's not many. Risk assessment, it's a systematic process for evaluating the potential risk that may be involved in a projected activity or undertaking. So what is the risk that something's going to go wrong in the activity that you're doing? So running a service, what's the risk that something will explode? So by highlighting the specific hazards and potential threats, a risk assessment helps to generate appropriate awareness and of them amongst both the employees and the managers. So risk assessments are difficult to do. They're a bit tedious, but once you've done a few, they get easier. They're really good at making sure your management's aware that if you run that service, these are the risks that service goes down. You're going to affect the whole community of researchers across your nation if that service goes down. You're going to affect all the students accessing the Moodle thing if that particular thing goes down. That means downtime for the users, downtime for the university, embarrassment for the university that's using your Moodle service. So just think about doing a risk assessment. There's plenty of options, plenty of ways that you can learn about risk assessment. Just type risk assessment into Google and they'll provide you a million different options of how to run through one of these things. Currently, the AO's highest risk is having a very public security incident. So we don't want to have a ransomware attack on our sites. We don't want our services to be hacked and our data, our personal information that we hold about users to be spread out through the community. We've had a few universities that had very public attacks. Over Christmas, one of our universities had a ransomware attack, the one that my wife and my son both work for. And they were offline for weeks while they repaired and put back together the whole infrastructure. Cost them heaps of time, heaps of effort, and heaps of it wasn't pretty. Curation of metadata. This is another function. So metadata is the glue that holds the federation together. It's the magic. It's all just XML. It needs to be accurate and valid based on your technical standards and policies. So having a technical standards and policy document helps in defining what accurate and valid is. And that's why I've decided to write one, because the guys who write our federation tools, we don't use Jagger, we use our own stuff. They need a bit of guidance on to know exactly what should be published as a IDPs or SPs metadata and what's needed to make it accurate, valid and complete. It needs to be current as well. So you need to ensure that only current members, current subscribers to your federation are published. If somebody leaves the federation, you need to take them out of the federation metadata feed as soon as possible. So you don't want that service to sort of linger, or that identity provider to linger in your federation. But it needs to be complete. So It's useless publishing 3/4 of the metadata. You need to have all the pieces that are required and only the pieces that are required, not too much. It needs to be published and accessible. So that comes back to your website, which then links to where your metadata is or how to access your metadata, how to access the keys to verify your metadata as an IDP or a service provider. And it will provide information about how to get access to the MDQ stuff. We don't do MDQ yet in our federation, but we're planning to at some point. And there'll be additional information required about how to actually do that and for IDPs and service providers to utilize that particular metadata source. Full blob metadata. So that's metadata with everything. And Raj was saying that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Yep. And we're going to make it bigger ourselves because we're going to be publishing more stuff in our metadata. You guys have got 10,000 universities, so you're going to kill it. Yeah. So this is it.
679 universities.
Yeah.
Standalone colleges, around 40,000.
40,000.
40,000.
We get this right. That's 40 lakh, is it?
40,000.
Yeah. How does lakh fit in? I've never worked out this lakh thing you talk about.
Okay, lakhs.
Oh, lakhs.
100,000 is equal to 1 lakh.
All right. 0.4 of a lakh. Then you got the MDQ stuff, which is the individual metadata for each entity, which can then be searched by the IDP or service provider. It needs to be well documented, and how do subscribers access it? How do you actually configure your IDP or configure your service to actually get access to this metadata? Supporting your federation members. This is where you really need your highly skilled support team. I head up our support team in the AAF, and we provide tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 support. We've also got our technical team that sits behind us. So if there's anything we can't deal with or it's something that they've caused, it's an issue, we can hand it off to those guys. We run a knowledge base. It's not well maintained at the moment. That's my fault, but it needs to be. We have webinars occasionally. We go on road shows, and I'm planning a road show for this year, and that's where we go and visit our customers, our universities, and talk to them about what it is to be part of the Federation and where we're going with the Federation. So this year, our roadshow, or my roadshow that's going to be happening, is talking about the new entity categories that will be added to the Federation, getting your IDP up to baseline standards, doing multi-factor authentication at your IDP, doing high levels of assurance. So we're actually lifting the level of our identities in our Federation and using the roadshow to communicate that out to our Federation members. So hopefully I'll be visiting a lot of universities over the next 6 to 8 months. And I'll be on the road a bit. We also plan to do some info videos, how to connect the service to the Federation using various technologies, and provide examples on how to do that. And you also need to know your audience. So over time, your audience for your the support will change. For most of you, your initial audience will be IDP administrators and organizations that want to join as an IDP to access services, mostly through EduGain initially, but eventually services provided by your institutions. Once you've got a lot of, or a significant number of IDPs into your Federation, people will start saying, well, how do I use this to connect my service? How do I have my researchers across 3, 4, 10, 15 universities using a common set of infrastructure, a common set of tools with a common identity without actually giving them another identity? And federations, how you do that. So working with service providers, we're going to be doing much more of that in the future. End users, you'll occasionally get end users pop up saying that they're having problems with their password. They're a pain because they just won't go away until their password's been fixed, but it's not our problem. So we have to then redirect them back to their university. knowing the contact information at the university helps us redirect them to the right place. It's amazing how quickly people get our email address when something goes wrong. And I try to stop that, and they can't work it out. It's a password problem. You got your password wrong. It's not an AF problem. Talk to your university. The other classic is, I had a problem logging in. Can you help me? That's it. That's all the information we get.
I always responded, can you provide less information?
Yeah, we always have a good laugh when we get one of those come through, and then you have to go and say, well, what service were you accessing? Can you give us some screenshots? Can you give us some more information about what you're trying to access? And usually it'll be they forgot their password or they did something stupid themselves. Research facilities. We've been doing a lot of work in the AF with our research facilities recently. Our biocommons crowd, our astronomers through the square kilometre array, and working with them to get a project that's going to be funded by the government, hopefully, about trust and identity, taking us to the next level, where we'll be using the ARC blueprint architecture to provide high levels of assurance, authorization, all that sort of good stuff that those guys are really calling out for. And as we've been talking to these research facilities, more and more are just coming out of the woodwork. They actually talk to each other. They say, oh, AF's got a solution. They're coming up with a solution, and they'll talk to each other. Oh, they're starting to come together. We're starting to herd them together and provide a common solution. But it's going to take a lot of effort to get there. We've been at it for about 3 years now or more to try and get to herd these cats into the same space. But they're finally.
So you can bring them apart. The academics will love to do that.
Yeah, the academics.
The academics is easier for you if you say, here's the food. So you pull the food, wherever they go, the academics will go.
Yeah. So we're making that food. It's an expensive food.
It's an expensive. Okay.
Yeah. Then we got the government. We're actually talking with the government because the government fund a lot of this research activities. And we're now becoming part of the club that actually gets some of the government funding.
The research council, that is something like that.
It's the NCRIS funding. Yep. So they get $500 million over 5 years to spend. So we're actually able to put our hand out and get some of that money. Well, hopefully we'll be with putting in a project proposal for $52 million or something over the next 4 years or 5 years or something. So it should be interesting. And then there's a private sector, getting them engaged. That's much more difficult because they're not really part of research, but there are a lot of people doing research in the public sector. So getting them engaged and how to actually, also private sector, and getting them engaged and how to connect them is a challenge. Communicating with your members, need to keep your customers engaged, need to be always talking to them, letting them know that you're supporting them, their research, their teaching, their collaboration goals. We have targeted newsletters. So we have 2 newsletters that go out every 3 months, one to CIOs and upper management folk, and then one to the technical folk of both IDPs and service providers. We did have just one newsletter that went out to everybody, and was generally not read by the CEOs because it was too technical, and generally not read by the technical people because it was too management focused. So we split those 2 apart, and we now have 2 newsletters. We run webinars. We beginning a process at events, being a present at events that your customers attend. So we regularly go to our e-research conference. We have a stall there, and we usually have somebody doing some presentations at that conference about what the AF's doing. We pick and choose conferences that we go to. We don't go to everything. Sometimes we'll try one and it might be good, or it might be just a dud and we won't go back. It's a matter of feeling your way for this stuff. Face-to-face meetings at all levels. So our CEO, Heath, will go and have meetings with various other CEOs. We've got a thing called CAUDIT, which is our Council of University IT Directors. So that's where all the IT directors get together, and he goes to those meetings and talks to those people about what's happening in the Federation, how it's going to impact our university, really high level stuff. He likes those little snippets of this is great, the 2-minute pitch type stuff. The technical stuff, that's more my domain, and I'll be off, as I said, doing a roadshow this year, face to face, a couple of hours with everybody, going through all the stuff that we want to get them through. And then the researchers, we've got another group which we've only just started, which is our research section, who go off and have face-to-face meetings with our research folks, our research facilities, and understand their requirements. If you have no members, you don't really have a federation, so you need to really work on making sure that you have members and communicating out to those members. So more on this in the next session. So I'll be talking a bit more about how to do this after morning tea. Sustainable, it's a business really, running a federation. It has expenses that need to be paid. You've got salaries, you've got equipment, service, software as a service, travel, accommodations, conference fees, on costs, and the list goes on and on. Having a business plan helps in defining how you're going to spend the money that comes into the federation and where that money is coming from if you're getting it. We have a strategic plan and a business plan. Our strategic plan, let's see if I can show you that. So our strategic plan is a 5-year plan about where we're going. 22 to 25, 2, 3, 4, 4-year plan, 3-year plan, 3-year. Sorry, I thought it was 5, but stuff's that. So it's got 5 components. And these are very high level type activities that we're going to do over the next 3 years. And the first one's building strategic partnerships. This is with our research infrastructure people, with government, with the health sector and others. We're looking at developing our skills and capabilities. So we have very skilled staff and so forth, but we need to continually grow and develop those capabilities. We need to strengthen our foundational services. So this is our federation tooling. Other stuff we need to continue to maintain and strengthen that stuff. Leading in technology innovation, and this is our trust and identity infrastructure program of work that we have going, and developing value-added services. So this is new stuff, innovation sort of thing. So happy for you to have a look at this stuff. It's all online. It's part of our website. And it's, let's see, go back to that one. It's then used to drive our business plan, which is a yearly business plan. So here's our 2023 business plan. It's got a similar structure. Sort of graphics, graphic people love this stuff. It's got the same 5 strategic connections. Then it goes into a bit more detail about each of those. Talked about our stakeholders, our innovation models, operating models, service models. It's got our vision and mission there so that everyone's still aware that what our vision and mission are. It's got the list of services we provide. So we provide the Federation, we provide ORCID. We've got a verified thing and consulting and training, which we don't do much of anymore. Then we go into each of the detailed sections. And right at the bottom, we have our support model. So this is our team. Each of those boxes is 1 or more people. There's a truckload of people in the AAF doing stuff. And then our financial stuff about what our incoming fees are and what our operating budget is. And then our risk management, so that risk assessment stuff. At the end, what are our risks and how are we trying to minimize those risks? And at the bottom, you will see cybersecurity is listed there. So it says cybersecurity, appropriate cybersecurity is in place. Risk identified or associated with the introduction of new capabilities. So we're introducing new tools and so forth. Let's see.
Chase.
So sustainable services, we have a big team. We have an income that supports that team. And it's after a lot of work, it's made it easier for us to become a sustainable organisation in ourselves. I'd like to spend the next 5 minutes through the morning tea. Just that side of the room and this side of the room, sort of brown around together. Sorry about folk at home, but it's difficult for you to participate in this. But just have a chat amongst yourselves about how to run a sustainable federation with a minimal team. Because I know a lot of you will be doing this with one person or half a person to run all of this stuff that we've been talking about. I know when Syphilan started, there was just yourself, Farhan, running the whole show. Yeah. When India's federation started, it was just Raj running the whole show. He's now a team of 4. You're a team of 3. So you've grown over time with your staffing to be able to support this stuff. So we want to split into little groups and sort of try and have a bit of a discussion, that side and this side, about how to run a sustainable federation with a minimal team. So you're allowed to move, walk around, and in 5 minutes' time, we'll break for morning tea time. It was morning tea at 10:30.
Yeah, and congregate at the media board by the pool on the ground level for a photo. You're going to try to find the photographer again. As you walk in, maybe you saw this the media wall.
So we need to go there and have a photo taken.
A group photo, yeah.
Ah, excellent.
Get the compliance out on the way in.
Yeah. Meaning for the claims.
Well, it's and for the publicity.
And the publicity. No, we'll go down afterwards. Just before.
It's over to you to talk about this stuff. I'm not going to say anything more. Turn around and face your colleagues and have a chat.
Just say hello.
So how many folks does Bangladesh have running your federation?
For federation, actually, we have only one IDP. And we are planning to incorporate STs, especially in the form of publishing. So gesture is communicated with us, but they have some specific requirement about passing some variable parameters. So probably we'll be able to do it.
Gesture need only 3 parameters. Reduction entitlement, and scope application, and targeted ID. This is very common for all the organizations. Yeah, only 2-3 publishers specifically asking some other attributes apart from the.
Here, you were mentioning that there are testing tools. Is there any testing tool through which we can verify which parameters to that publication?
Yeah. Even repeats also they are providing. What are the parameters you are passing?
That will be great. Because if we can check it, we can train gesture. That's to be a problem.
Yeah. So maybe I
Story.
Yeah, so maybe I just share about how we run Syphilan Federation. So actually we started with 1 PM. Okay, so half PM from me, another half from Suhaimi. So as time we grows along, then it become 2 PM, 2.5 actually. So we have one software engineer that focus on developing the tools and helping me to monitor the clients. And then after that, we had another person, and now Cifulan consists of 3 technical teams and 1 management team, which is the boss. Okay, so and then for the team we have divided into 2. One focus on the software development and infrastructure, and another one focus on the applications and user experience. Well, me, I'm looking these 2. So the challenge is that to find talented people is not easy. Okay, maybe for as a software engineer is pretty easy, but the technology that we use is a bit cutting edge. We focus on cloud net. Okay, with reasonable salary. Okay, so because we use a cloud native technology for like 95% of our backend infrastructure. So yeah, it's not that easy, but if you divide based on some areas, it's make it easier. Okay, for example, user experience is all about mainly the design, the appearance, look and feel, and so on. So we just focus finding somebody that good in design, user interface, and with minimum like HTML, CSS, and so on. So the back end is very technical, and I try to gel between these 2 together. So that's how we do to overcome. And from the customer side, at the beginning, yes, it's difficult for them to understand what is this identity federation about. So our strategy was, okay, let's invest time and also money to support one institution. We help them to build, even from the beginning until from the very base information, like look into the directory services, set up their IDP information, make sure all is up following the standard and so on. So then after that, we use that as a model of a live demo to other organizations to convince them to join. But yes, it's still not easy because some university has invested a lot in their IDMS and so on. So you need initially we were like, okay, we can only use this. Okay, so you have okay, so is that attendance? No, okay,
No.
okay. Okay, better I save that. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, then we try to become more flexible with our client, with the university and so on. So basically we try to assess, okay, what you have now, which part that we have to replace, which part that we have to upgrade. Okay, and because of that, then they're more welcoming now. So that's why our Identity Federation members has grown rapidly. Because of last year, we got a project to connect 140 polytechnic and community colleges to join Identity Federation, and also connect them with EduRoam as well. And it was a very crazy project, because when they announced the tender requirement, it's set up within 5 months. But when we have a kickoff meeting, guys, you only have 1 month. Okay, because next month the account of government close, and there's no guarantee that next year we still have this budget. So luckily we have the IDP as a service, rapid deployment, and yeah, we're able to deliver within 1 month to on the dot. Actually, only 1 day spare to deliver that service that required by the government actually.